Max Verstappen is more likely to stay at Red Bull for the 2026 F1 season, it has been claimed. Subscribe Sport F1 for Formula One news every day. Veteran BBC F1 journalist Andrew Benson has suggested that Verstappen will likely remain at Red Bull for next year but warned that could change. Verstappen's F1 future has been a hot topic over the past 12 months. The four-time world champion was linked with Mercedes last year as Toto Wolff assessed his options following Lewis Hamilton's shock decision to leave the team. With Verstappen unlikely to win a fifth consecutive title in 2025, his future is again in the spotlight. Red Bull have failed to fix the issues that curtailed their form at the end of last year, putting Verstappen a distant third in the championship. Red Bull have also sacked Christian Horner, and it remains to be seen whether that will keep Verstappen in the team or give him another reason to leave. Mercedes have been the favorites to sign Verstappen, given that George Russell and Kimi Antonelli are out of contract at the end of the season. Aston Martin are likely to be interested in Verstappen. However, they have Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll locked down for next year. Aston Martin recently signed Adrian Newey as their managing technical partner, while Honda will provide them with engines next year. As it stands, Aston Martin appears to be off the table for 2026. Mercedes' interest remains, but Benson thinks Max Verstappen staying at Red Bull is most likely at this stage. Aston Martin already have two drivers committed for 2026, he wrote. Fernando Alonso's contract runs out at the end of next season, and Lance Stroll will drive there for as long as he wants. Stroll is the son of the owner, Lawrence Stroll, and the team effectively exists for him. That means that if Verstappen were to want to leave Red Bull for Aston Martin, an arrangement would have to be reached with Alonso. Given that Alonso gets his first chance to drive an Adrian Newey-designed car next year, the chances of him being especially amenable to that are low. Any payoff in such circumstances would have to be very large indeed, one can imagine. Having said all of that, and while nothing is impossible in F1, and one can always be surprised, there does not seem to be any movement in this direction at the moment. If Verstappen is to leave Red Bull, it is most likely to be to Mercedes. Whether he will, remains an open question for now. My sense from little bits of information from here and there is that at this stage Verstappen is more likely to stay at Red Bull than not. But of course that could change. On the other side, Liam Lawson has denied suggestions that his confidence took a hit following his disappointing two-race stint at Red Bull at the start of the 2025 F1 season. Lawson was chosen as Sergio Perez's replacement for the start of this season after an encouraging 8-race run with Racing Bulls. The Kiwi's time at Red Bull was short-lived as he was dropped after just 2 races. Lawson qualified at the back in his 2 Red Bull outings and struggled considerably. He was demoted back to RB, but his form didn't pick up immediately. Lawson has been outperformed by rookie teammate Isaac Hadjar. In an interview with F1.com, Lawson reflected on his time at Red Bull and was adamant it had zero impact on his confidence or mentality. I think I would say one thing to be clear about is that between the first couple of races, to the team switch, then going to Japan, mentally for me nothing changed, he states, sitting back up in his chair while doing so. It's been very heavily speculated that my confidence took a hit and stuff like this, which is completely false. From the start of the year, I felt the same as I always have. I think in 2 races, on tracks I'd never been to, it's not really enough for my confidence. Maybe 6 months into a season, if I'm still at that level, if the results are still like that, then I'd be feeling something, maybe my confidence would be taking a hit. Lawson felt he simply didn't have enough time to get to grips with the RB21. Yuki Tsunoda, who replaced Lawson at the Japanese Grand Prix, has found life at Red Bull just as tough. His performances have not improved over time. I was well aware that those results weren't good enough, but I was just focused on improving, fixing and learning, basically. I was in the same mindset as I have been since I came into F1. I think that was the biggest thing going into a team like that. In a car like that, it was going to take a bit of time to adjust and learn. With no proper testing, the issues in Melbourne through practice, it wasn't smooth and clean. I needed time, and I wasn't given it. I haven't really talked much about it, because I think for a big part of this year, I've just ignored everything that happened, and I've just focused on trying to drive the car, but I know there was a lot of stuff that went out that was speculation about how I was feeling. My confidence hasn't changed since the start of the year to now. Ex-F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya believes Red Bull will turn to Carlos Sainz as a replacement for Max Verstappen if he joins Mercedes. Verstappen's F1 future continues to be a hot topic heading into this weekend's Belgian Grand Prix. The four-time world champion has been heavily linked with a possible switch to Mercedes. With both Mercedes drivers out of contract at the end of the year, it's still unclear what Toto Wolff will do. Red Bull's decline on track over the past 12 months has put Verstappen's future in jeopardy. Christian Horner's sudden exit from the team might tip Verstappen's decision to stay in either direction. Verstappen's father, Jos, expressed his frustration against Horner publicly on several occasions, particularly last year amid the off-track inappropriate behavior scandal. Verstappen has insisted that he's happy at Red Bull, but having a competitive car is his priority. With new technical regulations coming into play in 2026, a switch to Mercedes could prove timely. Rumors hint that the German manufacturer will be the team to beat next year. Montoya predicts the F1 driver market. Montoya thinks that if Verstappen joins Red Bull, they will turn to Sainz as his replacement. The Colombian also suggested Kimi Antonelli would be loaned to Williams, with George Russell remaining at Mercedes. Look, if Max leaves and they don't get rid of George, Red Bull will probably sign Sainz. And then, they will put Kimi in Williams, Montoya said on the Montoya's podcast. This will give Antonelli time to develop like they did with George. I think they had the option of bringing in Carlos, but Max didn't want Carlos as a partner. That's the only thing. I believe that Max was not given the option or the right to say who he wants as a Mercedes teammate. That's the only thing I don't think he will get, that he does get at Red Bull. Ultimately, we're trying to guess what we think is going to happen. What will be interesting is whether there is a change or not, and the number of seats that will move around whenever it happens. On the other hand, Williams driver Carlos Sainz has claimed that the politics in Formula One is the one thing he hates about the championship. The Spanish driver joined the Grove outfit at the beginning of 2025 after he was replaced at Ferrari by seven-time champion Lewis Hamilton. The replacement came as a shock to Sainz, and he was thrown into negotiations with other teams before he landed on Williams for his next move. While speaking on the High Performance podcast, Sainz explained that last year showed him how political sport can be, especially in F1, can be. I don't think there's any other sport that is as political as F1, he explained. You know, football can be political, but nowhere near as Formula One. Formula One, there's, for some reason, a level of politics that I don't understand. It's the one thing of the sport that I hate. When asked to clarify, Sainz added, what makes sense for a team to have in the two seats might not be the right thing for the team. It makes sense, but it's not the right thing. Or there's other things coming behind the driver. Doesn't matter if it's sponsors, money, that makes one a bit more attractive than the other. So, it's not purely performance. Performance brings you 80% of the cake. But there's another 20% maybe that it's not only performance and speed. Or let's say, if I am equally as quick as some other driver, that 20% is what makes the difference to be chosen over the other driver. And I feel like this is only happening in Formula One. The 30-year-old explained that although he hates the political side of F1, it's the sport that I love and no one's perfect. This sport is not perfect in so many ways, but it's my life and it's where I want to be my next years. And you just, one of my favorite phrases, get on with it. Just get on with it. Who cares? Just get on with it. Don't dwell too much on it. Don't get depressed by it. Just get on with it. And, move on to the next thing or the next target.